It's hard to express the true scope of perception a player gains as they traverse a city or town in an RPG. These are often some of the biggest time sinks in development after all. All departments come together to create massive cities or unique villages to experience and explore. When these important places are done right, they're compelling. They can tell a player so much about our world and its societies, more than any lore books or journal entries ever could. And for this reason, there is no better way of drawing a player into that space than a well-constructed city or town. Their size, the music and sounds, the city life, how NPCs move from one place to the next, and most importantly, the secrets or hidden places that exist within them can make for telling experiences. We often think as designers and as gamers especially that these cities and towns are constructed out of necessity. We need quest givers, we need shops, we need inns to restore our health after all. But often as we start constructing or exploring them, we form a more potent recipe of game design, far more powerful and impactful than that of practicality. We begin to outshine other elements in which we try to tell stories, share lore, and explain history to the player. It's incredibly easy to ignore a journal entry or quest pop-up, and even easier to ignore a lore book after all. But outside of turning off our monitor, it is impossible to ignore a city or town. Walking through its streets is a necessity, out of gameplay, and while the player is doing that, the NPCs are going to be in sight. The music or sounds always in earshot. The player won't always pick up on every little interaction, but they will get some of them. They have to, and those things will only enrich the experience. So straight away, let's get into some of the ways designers can make use of these massive cities and quaint towns to help promote more compelling game design. NPC reaction. NPCs' reactions and conversations to things other than the player can be telling on their own, revealing more about a society or climate, maybe even leading the player to places of interest. Shady figures gather where at night? Interesting. The king fears forces to the south, you say? Maybe he's willing to pay for that problem to be dealt with. Sometimes they don't even need to talk. A well thought out schedule can be just as telling as any set of dialogue. Having NPCs live out their day-to-day ignoring your player can be incredibly useful. The people of this village head to the town square every day to pay taxes. Strange. Nobody is out on the streets past dusk, and the guards suddenly double. Was martial law declared? Or maybe a curfew instated? These NPCs already populate our world for plenty of practical reasons, so why not use them to your advantage for some design ones? Have them lay the groundwork for exciting quest lines, interesting topics, and hidden secrets, and have your players discover them. The results will often be some of the most memorable and interesting experiences your players will have exploring your world. Dynamic change. In addition, cities are often the greatest indicator of change. When your RPG is dynamic politically or socially, there is no greater way to display change than a city. Players return there often, especially when you instruct them to, so it can be rather easy to display change over time. The Witcher 3's Novigrad is an excellent example of this. When you first come to the city, it is a boiling pot. Kingdoms are vying for their assistance in the war. The worshippers of the Eternal Fire combat the criminal syndicate for control of the streets. Magic has been outlawed, and the mages blamed for the issues of the common man and hunted. You return to Novigrad many times over your playthrough, leaving your impact, helping the mages, maybe helping the criminal element of the city. And each time, things change. The cult of Eternal Fire grows more powerful. Suddenly you begin to see more temple guards in more and more places. The bonfires in which they burn mages increase in size and crowd gradually. One day you walk into the city, and it's no longer mages they're burning. The mages are gone. A new scapegoat was needed. And now non-human elves and dwarves find themselves burned at the stake. Neighbors now find themselves the greatest foes of the grand city of Novigrad. It does not need to be that extreme, of course, but your city can show dynamic change over the course of the game. It should change and warp around the player's actions, and sometimes regardless of them, like our last example. Give your players another reason to return to the places you've put so much design and dedication into, besides selling loot and dealing with quests. Hidden secrets. We touched earlier on having NPCs lead you to secrets or points of interest. It doesn't always need to be like that. Sometimes having secrets that players can stumble upon or find by themselves can be extremely rewarding. Windfall Island from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is a small little town that has only earned more and more of my respect as I've grown up and designed more games. This little village is deceitfully small for the secrets it garners. Underground prisons, invisible chests, auction houses, forbidden love, unexplored love. It's really got it all for such a small, quaint town. A personal favorite space for secrets of mine is the unassuming wishing well. A lot of designers put some truly amazing secret spaces into wells, and I tend to favor them myself when designing villages or towns of my own. What secrets do you have to hide in your city or town? Do you favor cellars, the basement to a bar, an old barn? Find interesting places you've designed and see what you can do with the space. Something for an unassuming player to come across. Reward not only them for their exploration, but yourself. Share more about your story, your project. These spaces are the best place to do that outside of the main story. Odds are, if you're working in an RPG, you're using massive cities, small little towns, or something in between. And it is such a devotion of resources for those practical reasons we mentioned earlier. So use these spaces we create to promote or inspire the best parts of your designed content. You won't regret it. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's game design talk on how designers can use their cities and towns to promote more compelling world building. This won't be our last video on cities or towns. There's tons more to cover, and I plan to make sure that I do it. Make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date with our Game Design Talk series. There is tons of stuff coming up. A huge thank to our patron over on Patreon. This content will come out regardless, but it really does help with what we do on the channel. If you're interested in having your name shouted out at the end of every video, like this fine gentleman right here, and helping us out, you can find that link in the description below. But until next time, guys, this is Can't Resist Tris. Keep designing, never lose your passion, and I will see you guys in the next Game Design Talk video. Bye, guys.